Hey everybody, it's Ann Beebe. Today is Monday, March 20th, 2019. I'm Barb Hammer. Today is Victoria Day in Canada. And I am a dual citizen. I'm American with dual citizenship in Canada. I live in British Columbia, not too far from Vancouver. So Victoria Day is kind of like Memorial Day for Canada. So it's the beginning of the big summer vacation season. So anyway, I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. I came back from a month-long trip a couple of weeks ago. Been really tired, a little over a week ago. Been really tired and trying to recover. And actually, I've had some tech problems too. So yesterday, I tried to make a video in the local park, Mill Lake Park, in Abbotsford, British Columbia, where I live, and had problems with the, I did it on an old smartphone. I had problems with the YouTube app, and it wouldn't upload, and I tried to remove the storage card, and the storage card was stuck in the smartphone, so that video is gone. And it's a pity because it was of some very cute Canada geese goslings, very young geese at the local park. So it's a shame, but anyway. So I just recently celebrated the 1-year anniversary of the first video that I uploaded to my YouTube channel. And I'm just going to remind everybody who I am. So I'm fully transparent about who I am and my background. So I'm from Virginia originally, born and raised and educated. And I have very strong family roots there, as well as in West Virginia, where my parents were from. And my family is almost entirely in Virginia, in the U.S. And another thing that I'm very open about is, and a lot of people hold that against me, is I used to work for the National Security Agency. Now, I was in Korea. I worked there for 8 years in the 80s, and I was actually on the CIA payroll for one of those years. But people like to hold that against me, but I take that as an asset. I know a little more than most people about the government and the intelligence community, but people seem to think that the government and the intelligence community is monolithic, which it is not at all. There are lots of rivalries and different interests, conflicting interests, so just keep that in mind. So I never hide that background from anybody, but people constantly try to hold that against me. Anyway, so, as I was saying, today is Victoria Day. So what is Victoria Day? Today is actually the celebration of Queen Victoria's birthday, roughly. She was born on May 24th, 1819, so almost 200 years ago. And she was sort of the ultimate imperialist monarch, British monarch. Now, I have to remind you that the head of state in Canada is still whoever sits on the throne of England, the United Kingdom. So right now, the head of state of Canada is Queen Elizabeth II. So there are a lot of Canadians who kind of regret. They seem to think that Canada has lost its sovereignty somewhat to the U.S., which is somewhat true, but they have to remember that Canada has always been part of the British Empire, British Commonwealth. Anyway, so that's what this holiday weekend is about. The other thing is recently, and I had wanted to do a video about this as well, is that, so last week was the 100th anniversary of the start of the Winnipeg General Strike. And the Winnipeg General Strike is the most significant labor event in Canada. And it reminded me of a video I did last year around Labor Day, where I talked about the Haymarket event in Chicago in the late 1800s. And this is sort of Canada's equivalent, I guess. So it ended in a lot of violence. Not that the strikers were being violent. They were trying to stop. So the Winnipeg General Strike started 100 years ago. It went on for 6 weeks. And as always, labor strikes, labor unrest is associated with violence, but the violence isn't necessarily coming from the strikers. It is coming from the police or other authorities who are trying to crack down and stop the strike or the unrest. And this was the same situation during the Winnipeg General Strike. So the Haymarket event took place in Chicago, and Winnipeg at the time was the third biggest city in Canada. It is no longer the third biggest city in Canada. So Winnipeg was kind of like the Chicago of Canada at the time. So right now the third biggest city is actually Vancouver, near where I live. After, let's see, Toronto is number one. Montreal is actually number two. People forget that because it's in French-speaking Canada. And then Vancouver is number three. So anyway, I just wanted to sort of commemorate that event, as well as the Canada Victoria Day. Anyway, so a lot of things on my mind, but something I've noticed recently I want to talk about, and this is kind of in conjunction with a video that my friend Scott Creighton on his Church Dog 42 channel did today, and the title of that video was "What the Fake Resistance is Helping Trump Get Away With." So he's talking about the fake left. So along those lines, I want to talk about the fake anti-war movement. It's kind of like the controlled opposition on the left. So they're anti-war, but to me, this kind of controlled opposition. So I have to remind you, last year in October, I took part in Cindy Sheehan's Women's March on the Pentagon. And I kind of, in a way, I learned a lot, but I kind of regret being involved in that because I realized it was kind of like controlled opposition. But they were still supporting the neoliberal agenda, which is the sort of the foundation of neoconservatism, or neoconservatism and neoliberalism go hand in hand. So Cindy Sheehan's group, they support open borders, which is also known as comprehensive immigration reform. And that undermines workers' rights, and it drives down wages, brings in a lot of cheap labor, and so all workers suffer as a result. And so Cindy Sheehan's group, they support these the Tijuana migrant caravans at the border. They're creating this crisis that corporations love, because then they can claim, we need to help those poor immigrants, those poor refugees. Anyway, I got smeared within the group on Facebook, their Facebook group, I questioned their open borders position. I got smeared and accused of being a bigot. So I'm still on their email list, but I noticed a couple of disturbing things that they're doing. So, yeah, let's see. So, okay. Oops. Here we go. So this is an email that I got, when was this? I don't know, a couple weeks ago. So this was in anticipation of Mother's Day. So they're trying to sell these T-shirts for Mother's Day. And so this email is says, still looking for the perfect Mother's Day gift for the radical peace mom in your life? Or how about the Fox News watching mom you wish you were a radical mom you wish were a radical peace mom? So they were trying to get people to buy these T-shirts, Rage Against the War Machine. So I thought it was interesting that they had this phrase about the Fox News watching mom, as though only Fox News were the problem and CNN, MSNBC, or any of these supposedly left or liberal media outlets weren't the problem as far as the war machine. So that raised a lot of red flags for me. I realized, oh, they're falling back into the old stereotype about, oh, it's just the Fox News right wing that's the problem, that they are the promoting the war machine. And that's not the case at all. And so I just kept that at the back of my mind. And they're still promoting that T-shirt. They're still selling those T-shirts. But I got another email, and I clicked on the link to this. So they're trying to get people, Cindy Sheehan's Women's March, or March on the Pentagon, Women's March on the Pentagon. They're trying to get people to take this anti-imperialist pledge. So what is this about? It's about voting. So Cindy Sheehan's group thinks that the solution to the war, getting rid of the war machine, is to vote. So I've noticed this, a lot of media, supposedly alternative media channels on YouTube or outlets, they're promoting getting involved in the elections, the presidential election and whatever senatorial and congressional elections are happening next year as well. So they think elections are the solution. And I know darn well, I mean, I learned my lesson after 2016 that elections are not the solution. There's such rampant election fraud that is definitely not the solution. So this is the pledge that they're trying to get people to take. So I'll give you a link to this in the show notes. So they're going on about the empire and the war machine. But what's interesting, at the end of this pledge, it says, we invite you to sign the pledge below and check back soon to see our shareable 2020 candidate scorecards. Now, who are they promoting in these candidate scorecards? Well, who else but the Democratic Party and possibly some Green candidates. But I will tell you, as a former Green Party member here in Canada, and the US isn't really much different, the Green Party is really just controlled opposition as well. And I saw that in 2016 with Dr. Jill Stein, the presidential candidate. She was part of the recount. And she took Podesta money. So the Podestas are Clinton cronies. So she took Podesta money for the recount in 2016, and they only recounted in the areas where Trump had won over Hillary Clinton. So this is what's going on with the fake anti-war left, the controlled opposition left, and a lot of supposed dissidents or alternative media, alternative organizations. They are sheepdogging people back into the electoral system. And this has really disgusted me. And I have to remind people. So there was a CIA officer, not an agent, an officer. CIA officer is someone who works directly for the CIA. CIA officers recruit agents who provide them with information. So anyway, John or Jack Stockwell back in the 80s talked about how the CIA saw the two parties as just one business party. And this is John or Jack Stockwell here on the left. He appeared in some videos on sort of alternative TV channel, I forget, local access TV channel, and he talked about the CIA's agenda. So this Democrats and Republicans are the same party, and the U.S. is not a democracy. So he's one person who has talked about this, that the two parties are really just one business party. And ultimately, they are both part of the war machine. So Cindy Sheehan's group, they have this all wrong. And so I think that's basically the message that I want to give you today. So what Scott was talking about, the fake left, the fake resistance, well, the controlled opposition is the same thing. There's sort of the fake alt McRistons, I would say. Anyway, that's my video for today, and I will be putting out more videos, but I need to start with something, and this is something that was on my mind. Anyway, thank you for your patience. I'll probably have to do some playlists, create some playlists. I have travel videos, and I didn't upload all my videos from Cuba. But you know, my travel videos are not just about me and traveling, but they are to humanize a country. So Cuba is the first country where I want to go. Cuba has been smeared as a socialist hellhole. I want to go to other similar countries like Nicaragua and Venezuela and Bolivia, maybe even North Korea, some other countries. Anyway, so my philosophy about travel is kind of like, I have to explain. So I recall years ago, so this is Rick Steves. Rick Steves does these, you will see Rick Steves travel videos on PBS channels. Well, Rick Stevie normally produces these videos about Europe, but he did 2 or 3 videos about a trip he made to Iran. They're very interesting. They're very basic. Now, he's not the brightest bulb. He's not very politically aware. I have to tell you, in 2016, he hosted a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton in Washington State, where he lives. And I got upset with that because I was a Bernie Sanders supporter at the time. And I pointed this out to him, that as far as his philosophy, it was more in line with Bernie Sanders. And he was kind of puzzled because he didn't really see the big difference. Yeah, so he responded to me online, Rick Steves. Anyway, so Rick Steves isn't the brightest bulb politically, but I think he had it right about these videos about Iran. So he produced these videos to humanize Iranians, and he had explained that he wished that he had produced videos like this in Iraq before the Iraq War began in 2003, but he did not make it to Iraq, and he wanted to produce travel videos in Iraq to try to stop the war against Iraq. So anyway, that's what my philosophy is about travel and producing videos, travel videos, is to humanize people in a country, humanize a country so that we don't go to war against them. Anyway, I guess that's it for now. So anyway, I want to show you, I haven't done much on YouTube, but I'm always on Twitter, tweeting. And this is my Twitter account on Twitter, if you have a Twitter account or you want to follow me on Twitter. So I'm right now, I'm at Babette Martel. That's sort of a French version of my real name, which is Barbara Hammer. And my Twitter name right now, the Twitter account name right now is Random Interim Afro-Cuban Prime Minister of Canada. And that's sort of in reference to Venezuela. Anyway, that's it for now. So thank you for your patience and stay tuned. I'll be doing more videos. Okay. Talk to you again soon. Bye.